Hey, let's go, Tony.
Hey, Vinny! What's been going on there? It's your Uncle Tony here, subbing for Hughe Squell. Come on, take a seat. I'm gonna tell you a story. You want me to tell you a story? I'ma tell you a story. You take a seat right now, or I swear to God I will tell your mother. Holes by Sachar. So, Holes is it's a Victorian era Baroque science fiction novel written by Sachar in 1998. It explores the depths of the characters of Stanley Yelnats and his other inmate buddies, and Mr. Sir, and don't forget the 1850s people like Sam the Onion Man and Catherine Barlow and all that good stuff. And it's a big prophecy that takes place over thousands of years because of the no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing great-grandfather or whatever. You know, you get the point. It was written by this guy named Sachar. Now, who is Sachar, you may ask? Brioski, for all your indigestion needs. So Sachar was born in 1954 in New York. New York. Why not Newark, if you know what I mean? And he was like, hey, I want to go get myself a economics degree, like some kind of boring person. And so he goes and he's like, hey, I got some economics going on up here. You know what I'm going to do now that I know economics? I'm going to become a story writer. So what does he do? He starts writing stories. What happens when he starts writing these stories? Things start making ballin'. More economics than he could have ever gotten from Doc out there at the university. Hey Doc, look where I am now, says Sachar to the doc. And the doc's like, oh, guess I better just end my career right here because Sachar has defeated me. So we don't know what happened to Doc, but Sachar goes on and he keeps writing these things. He makes the Wayside Story, the hit Nickelodeon television show. He makes that, yeah. And then he goes ahead and he's like, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna become part of every middle school curriculum and I'm gonna write Holes by Sachar. And so that's what he does. He writes Holes. Where does he get the idea? I don't know. Probably some kind of sick fantasy, if you ask me. But he writes it, and then it becomes a big seller. You know, one of those Newark Times bestseller list things. And that happens, and everyone's like, God damn, I gotta read me some Sachar. And it just keeps piling up and piling up. And then suddenly what happens? Everyone born in the 90s and the early 2000s gets slapped with it like 3 times. So what happens in this book? Well, it's gonna be quite a doozy if you ask me. I'll take you down to my beach house and you'll see what I mean. So what happens in Holes? I'm glad you asked me, Vinny, because in this brilliant novel, it transcends hundreds and hundreds of years. It goes through the slavery, it goes through the other stuff, it goes through the modern times, and it roasts the patent laws. So when you're talking about Holes here, you're talking about all kinds of drama. It starts with this boy named Stanley Yelnats, and I know it took me several years to figure this out, but Yelnats is just Stanley backwards. Now, I know, I'll give you a second to really take that in, okay? Alright, I think you've adjusted. So the Yelnats family, they didn't even have a Stanley for the past couple hundred years. But back in the 1800s, there's this kiddo who's the ancestor of the Stanley Yelnats. He's some other kind of Yelnats. I don't really care what his first name is. And he's like, hey, I live in this town of Green Lake, and it's a big lake in Texas. But it's a lake place town with lots of crime because there's the Kate Barlow lady who comes slapping along, stealing things and kissing people before she murders them with snake venom that you find at the lake. And so the snake venom kills you so she kisses you and she doesn't even lick her lips. Because if she licked her lips, you die! And so then Sam the Onion Man comes around and he's like looking around and he's like, hey, I may just sell onions, but I can sure do a whole lot more. I got layers, if you know what I mean. He's a character with lots and lots of layers. And he goes ahead and he says to Kate, hey, I'm gonna fall in love with you because I like fixing things. And then, assumedly, they plow. And after they plow, he's like, I can fix that, and he repairs the damages. But by then it's too late because some prophecy has already been sealed, because Sam the Onion Man finds a capsized boat and he hides out there and he drowns and he dies with a jar of preserved onions with some juice in them. Fast forward all these years, and what do you find? You find the Yelnats family, and they're living like slobs. They're goddamn trash people. They're claiming to be inventors, but they're just a bunch of hobnobbing wizards, if you ask me. And so they're like, hey, Stanley, stop stealing shoes from the basketball players. And Stanley's like, hey, Dad, I didn't do nothing. It was the other guy, eh? He got away and all that, but I got framed. And they're like, framings for Jeffrey Epstein, if you know what I mean. And you know what happens when you frame Jeffrey Epstein? You go to jail.
So you go to jail, and like, you know, you're put in a holding cell on surveillance for 24 hours. And they're like, oh no, we're gonna leave you alone, goodbye Miss Epstein. And oh no, I'll kill myself because I'm Jeffrey Epstein. I can't get convicted of all this stuff. It'll pull down everyone else.
Exactly. Nothing could possibly have been going on. He was framed. It was perfectly fine. But he just got so sad. He just couldn't handle that everyone was falsely accusing him of all this stuff. And then he just offs himself because of it. No conspiracies, nothing. Nothing else happened. And so then Stanley gets sent off to this jail, right? And it's this old boy's jail out in this big old wasteland. And then you get introduced to the jail warden, man, and his name is Mr. Sir. And Mr. Sir is all buff and he gives you the old classic Full Metal Jacket treatment. Oh, you maggots! And then he gives everyone like these straight jackets and he's like, hey, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna dig holes. And then you roll the credits. But then after that, you dig the holes actually, and the story continues because you gradually find out that things are a little corrupt around here. You find the jar, the juicy onion slop, and you're like, hey, this ain't right. And then you meet this kid named Hector Zeroni, or Zero, and everyone thinks he's dumb, but he's like, hey, there's like a prophecy, I got some infinite wisdom in here. And he keeps that infinite wisdom in his head, because he's just a plot impediment of some sort. But Stanley doesn't realize that, because he's a bit kaput in the head as well. So they go out on this mission to escape the tyranny of the jail. And then they end up on this big old mountain full of onions. And then the onions are giving them life. They just chug onions. They slurp these onions down the gullets. And once they're done slurping onions, then what do? They go back down to the camp because they had a big epiphany. And it turns out that Hector Zeroni was actually related to this person that old Yelnats man in the 1850s talked to, who was like, hey, carry this pig up the mountain every day and make it thick and fat. And then if you don't do that, then I'm gonna curse your family for all these years. And the Yelnats man, of course, somehow manages to screw this up, and he gets his family cursed. And so then Stanley comes down and he's all like, I know everything now. We need to dig a hole and find the buried treasure that apparently got buried all these years ago. And then they go and they start digging the holes and they find the treasure. And then Mr. Sir's like, hey, this right here, this is mine because this is my prison. But then Stanley looks at the little thing and it says Yelnats on it. And then Zero suddenly magically gains the ability to read. And he's like, hey, that's Stanley's name backwards. And then Stanley's like, he's got a point, you know? And then Mr. Sir's like, whatever, you can open up the box. But then a bunch of deadly snakes come out and they're like, uh-oh, I guess we might get poisoned. But Stanley just yeets it out anyway. And then he gets it and he opens it up. And what does he see inside? And it's a bunch of money. And the name goes out to the Yelnats family. And so then it turns out that it gets legally revealed somehow that Mr. Sir was just scamming them all over the place. So he gets sent to jail, and then he's like, hey, I'm getting sent to jail, but y'all rue the date for this, this is my money. And then the police officer's like, hey, your first name's Mary. And then everyone's like, your name's Mary. Well, that ain't a man's name. And then he looks back and he winks, and he says, it ain't. And then the Yelnats family's rich and they use the onion slop to make money. The end.
I think I'm on Little St. James. Any kiddies in here?
Jeffrey! So, if I had to make a style analogy for this book, comparing it to some other piece of media in the world that exists somewhere, I would have to compare Holes by Louis Sachar to, say, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, there's like a big flashback with the previous generation going on, where Ego is all acting like a hippie in the 70s, singing, Brandy, you're a fine girl, what a good wife, you would be such a fine wife. And then he's all like impregnating people, and then he's setting things up for the big kablamo. But then it teleports into the present day, whenever Peter Quill, the secret son of Ego, is like, damn, I have daddy issues. I sure wish I didn't. I want to play catch with my dad. He's like, hey, wait a minute, there's my dad. He did all these things. He's millions of years old. It's kind of like the timey-wimey stuff, you know?
There is no body. He isn't dead. He's halfway to Mars. Elon Musk. Oh, there's the record button. Alright, Hughe Squell. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Sorry everyone, I'm here for the book review. Oh crap, he got out. Yeah. You can tell I'm Hughe Squell because I'm not wearing any tropical flip-flops. Yeah. So anyway, so we're on to the character comparison with some kind of animal, right? So you got Stanley Yelnats, okay? He's a boy, he's a poor boy. He likes to dig holes. He has ancestors. He likes onions. I'm gonna compare him to a weevil. Okay? Stanley Yelnats is a weevil because Stanley Yelnats digs holes, burrows into onions to get nutrients. He has evolved over millions of years, and they are cursed to be considered but pests to us higher beings, as is Stanley Yelnats and the weevil.
They're not gonna find him, Hughe Squell.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Good. As an authoritarian right, I guess that over the sound of active paper shredder, Epstein died of natural causes peacefully in his sleep. Well, there you go.
So, we usually do a quote from this book, right? You know, but I found something that just so aptly summarizes both the content of this book and of the audience of this book. Now I'd like you to come closer. Come closer. Now take a look at this here. This right here is beautiful. Now let me read this out. Wanted, preferably alive, Stanley Yelnats, last seen in a desert filled with holes, wearing an orange jumpsuit. Guilty in driving a truck into a hole, followed by running away. Former crimes, stealing a pair of sneakers. Reward, it depends. If found, you better contact *2, *8, *9, *1, The rest, you have to guess. Now, a lot of this is filled with mystery and intrigue, but I'm sure we could all say for certain that we know what it feels like when someone that we love and care about gets falsely accused of a crime.
Oh, I want to clap. Oh! Oh!
Please!
Oh, my Donkey Kong!
Hugh!
Oh! Is that... Hughe Square?
Yep, Hughe Squell. That's me. That's me, Hughe Squell. Now, in terms of media influences, there's a book, a beautiful book, written on this subject. This book, this movie is called Holes by Louis Sachar. Now, Holes by Louis Sachar is a beautiful 2003 movie created by Disney Pictures.
I'll just go back to the Donkey Kong, if you don't mind.
Yup, you probably died. He's older, meaner.
So, on a scale of trash to meh, I would rank Holes by Louis Sachar meh. It's a rather beautiful piece of literature, and it really travels through the times, if you know what I mean. I prefer this book over anything like the Joy Luck Club or other associated pieces of trash. It's not, say, good. I doubt I could say that about most things. No, it was not good. But also, it was not trash. Thank you for watching.
Lewis!